How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Goalie Science Podcast. I am your solo host today, Derek Boujan of Boujan Goaltending and On Ice Hockey Performance Center. And my co-host, Jamie Phillips, is on a European trip. I think maybe it's his honeymoon. I'm not too sure, but he is in Europe. And from his Instagram posts and just quick couple texts I got, he looks like he's having the time of his life. So I thought I'd jump on here, do like a little bit of a rant or just a little bit of discussion with myself. And I would just throw it out there for an episode or a short episode. And something that we've talked about doing is trying to do a little bit more short episodes where we can do them by ourselves. And if we have something on our mind that we want to talk about. And there is something that we talked briefly about on the podcast a couple episodes ago. And I want to kind of go further into it and give just a little bit of insight into kind of the way I feel about the idea that when you're 9, 10, and 11 years old, that winning is not important. And I'm going to insert a clip right here that I stumbled across on Instagram yesterday that kind of got the gears in my head going. And I just wanted to kind of talk about this and kind of see just my point of view and kind of where I lie in the whole skill individual development and into kind of the team concept type of thing. So I'm going to put that clip in here for right now, and then
I think if you're getting caught up with 9, 10, and 11-year-olds winning, you're in the wrong business. You should go get your licenses and go maybe try to be a professional coach where it really matters, the winning. Yeah. But if you're coaching 9, 10, and 11-year-olds, it's purely about development. Every day at training, you go there. I'm trying to develop players. I'm not trying to make a winning team.
So the one thing that I hear a lot is people talk about it's not about winning, it's about development. It's about development. I'm not trying to make the best team. I'm trying to develop the players. My counter argument to this would be, why can we not take the human development part of this and include that into what development is, or the definition of what development is? When a lot of these developers think that we're focusing on development, number one, it's individual skill development. That is something that is now the number one priority for kids at the younger ages, is individual skill development, individual practices, privates, semi-privates. They go to 3 or 4 different skills coaches to prioritize their individual game. And then they come into their team practice, and that's where they get the team concept. So in terms of development or on ice kind of allotment, I would say it's probably 60-40 in terms of individual skill development. And where my counterpoint would be is, we as developers and as hockey coaches are looking to develop human beings and high functioning adults. And me and Jamie talk about this quite a bit, is that as 2 business owners, we are constantly looking to hire employees that played team sports and primarily played hockey, with us being in the hockey world in terms of our businesses. So when we talk about winning isn't important, I completely disagree. Now, if winning is the priority, and that's the big difference, is for someone to say that winning isn't important and we're more about developing the skills and skill development, to me, that's just low-hanging fruit. That's something that is a buzzword. That is something that you hear from development coaches for sure that aren't head coaches, because their corner of the market is in individual skill development. So it's easy for skill developers to go in and say, oh, we're not worried about winning every game. We're not worried about prioritizing winning or shortening the bench. But what about the life skills in terms of resiliency and confidence? And I had a very good chat with a lot of the goalies I worked with about understanding what confidence is. And confidence is your own. You have to own your own confidence, and you are responsible for your own confidence. So the examples I gave was, confidence comes from, number one, preparation. It comes from knowing that you've done everything before a game or before a practice to put yourself in the best position to have success. That can be hydration. That can be having a nap. That can be doing your pregame routine. That can be making sure that you have proper nutrition. All of those things. If you need to do your visualization, all of these things give you a sense of preparedness, which gives you confidence. If you go into a game as a goaltender and you make 35 saves, and maybe your team loses 4-2. Without a doubt, and this is non-debatable, there will be a parent on that team that is going to blame the goalie for that loss, no matter how well the goalie played. That's just the idea of non-goalie parents, is they need someone to blame other than their kids. You're going to get blamed. And what I try to teach young goalies is you're responsible to know that you put in the work, that you were focused, that you did your routine, and that you gave your team a chance to win without having to have validation from other people. Other people are not responsible for your confidence. And a second part of that is I don't think anybody should be able to take your confidence away. We hear this all the time is, my son's got no confidence because his coach is hard on him. His coach is hard on him because his coach cares. Coaches that are coaching, and whether that's hard coaching, soft coaching, if your kid is being coached by the team coach, it's because that coach is still invested. When the coach starts to ignore your player, that is when they've given up. And there's a big difference between the two. And a coach should not be able to take your confidence. If a coach can take your confidence away, then you cannot look in the mirror and honestly say that you've done your preparation, that you work as hard as anybody else on the team in practice, that you show up focused to learn the concepts as everybody else, that you're doing outside skill development that you need to implement into your game for you to have success. If you do all of those things, then you internally should know that you have done everything you possibly can to have success and have the confidence that when it comes to that point in the game, you're going to succeed. The more important thing I think athletes need is resiliency. And resiliency is the ability to bounce back. It's the ability to overcome fear or overcome failure and then come back and perform. And this rant on Instagram really got me thinking about, if we don't care about winning, if we can just say we're worried about skills, we're just worried about development, and then we go to play games and winning doesn't matter, we're not teaching our kids the resiliency part of human development. And to me, that is important. If you're on a team where the only priority is winning, I think we need to come to an understanding that there should be, winning is important, but if the only priority is winning, that is where we can get ourselves into some trouble. But in terms of winning matter, as a coach, I always pride myself on trying to put a kid in the best position so that they can succeed. So if I have a defenseman who is a bigger, slow-footed defenseman that struggles jumping or joining into the play, struggles with seeing the ice, and is very, very narrow-visioned, I don't think that me putting him on the ice in a power play is putting that kid in the best position for the team to have success, but also for him to have individual success. Now, does that mean we're prioritizing winning? No, I don't think it does. I think what that means is we're trying to teach this player that for him to earn those minutes on the power play, there's things in his game that he needs to adapt and develop. And then he does that. But how do those players understand what those needs are if we never put them in a position where they have to earn those things? And now we're saying earning those things is automatically prioritizing winning. I don't believe they're the same. So I think until somebody can define to me what development is and stop using the low-hanging fruit of winning's not important, winning isn't the priority. I've said this over and over and over again. As a goalie parent, I am not prioritizing my son playing on a winning team. Now, do I want my son to play on teams that are competitive? Yes, absolutely. Do I want my son to learn how to win? Yes, absolutely. Do I want my son to feel the sting of defeat? Yes, I do, very much. And for those that listen to the last For those that listen to the last podcast, my son's team was in the Oakville Winter Classic, which is the biggest tournament in Canada. And as a team, we had a lot of success. We got to the semifinals. We played a team in the top 5 in the province from Oakville, who's a very, very strong team. And my son played the semifinal game, and he played phenomenal. We got outshot 35-12. None of that really matters, but he had a strong, solid game. He was part of the reason that we were able to get to overtime. Now, the situation was we had a 4-2 lead with 30 seconds left. Oakville scored 2 goals. First goal, not much he could do. A little bit of traffic. Guy comes left to right through the slot, shoots it through traffic, puck finds a way back of the net. Not much we can do. The goal with 5 seconds left. Breakdown in front. They come down a little mini breakaway, kind of on a bad angle, and he gets beat 5-hole. And it's not a very good goal. Optically, not a good goal at all. For parents that aren't goalie parents that don't understand what goaltending is, or people that don't understand that a smaller goalie needs to be patient, when you get beat 5-hole there, optically, it looks bad. As his father, I didn't like the goal. I was not happy with the goal. That sent the game to overtime. Now, we go in overtime. He makes a couple saves. We end up losing with 3 seconds left in overtime. And it's heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. We were in a position as a team where our boys earned the ability to be there. And as a goalie coach and as a father, I was very proud of the way my sons played. I was more proud about the resiliency and the response that I got from him the next day. So the next day on the way to school, I said, hey, do you want to talk about the game at all? And he goes, Dad, I know. He goes, I played well. He goes, but that's a save I have to make. The boys played their hearts out. We had a lead. And it doesn't matter how well I played. He's like, that's a save that I need to make. And he's like, next time, I know I'm going to make that save. And I said, all right. I have nothing else to say. That is the exact answer I looked for. And as a hockey dad and as a goalie coach, if I didn't prioritize his performance in games, in competitive moments, if that wasn't something that mattered, if I didn't put him in positions where he had to grow and learn and be resilient, I never would have got that answer. And that was one of the most proudest moments of not only being a goalie dad, but also being a goalie coach for a 10-year-old to have the self-awareness to say, yeah, I played well, but I got to be better. And I need to make that save for my team. And I could not have been happier in that moment. And I didn't have to say anything. But if we don't think winning matters, then we don't get those life lessons. And we don't teach these kids to be resilient and be resilient adults. And then when they go away to college or they go away to play junior and they're not living with mommy and daddy anymore, what is going to happen? So I completely disagree with the idea that when you're 9, 10, and 11, that winning doesn't matter. It does matter because we're setting these kids up for life. And in life, whether we want to like it or not, there's winning and there's losing. And the biggest thing that sports teaches our kids, number one, is teamwork. Being part of a group, being a contributing factor as a team. We want to teach them to own their own confidence. We want to teach them resiliency. And all of these things are taught through competitive sports, youth sports, and learning these life lessons. So until someone can completely tell me and define what development is, I will never agree with the idea that winning doesn't matter, because it does matter. And before I go here, the last thing I want to say is there's this book. So Jamie's a big reader. And actually, I think Jamie's the one who told me to read this. And I read this about 15 years ago. And the book is called Ego is the Enemy. It's by Ryan Holiday. And I actually stopped at Indigo today and bought this because it just clicked into my head during one of my skates this morning. And I want to kind of tell anybody out there who's reading, hockey parent for sure. If you're an athlete, a goalie, if you're on the bus for junior games and you got long bus rides, then grab this book, Ego is the Enemy. It's a bunch of different stories over kind of human history, how ego had ruined people and how your ego can get in the way and defeat you. And this book, I'm going to give this to my son today, actually, after that conversation, because I was so impressed that I think this is something I really want him to read and try to understand. But big recommendation for anybody, Ryan Holiday. You can get it on Amazon. I grabbed it at Indigo in Ontario. And also, last but not least, we talk all the time about reaching out and hitting us up, DM, talk us at the rinks. This weekend at the tournament, I had 2 people come up to me, one from Windsor and one from the Ottawa area, that came up and just had a quick little chat with them, said they love the podcast. So thanks a lot, guys, for reaching out if you're listening. And in the last couple of weeks, I've had a bunch of people send me some DMs for just some advice. I love talking hockey. I love talking goaltending. This is what I do for fun. This is my release. This makes me feel really, really good about the things that we're doing. So if anybody's out there got any question, man, don't hesitate. Feel free to reach out to me. It's Boujan_goaltending on Instagram. And check out the Boujan Goaltending vlog. I'm way behind on it because I'm very, very busy. But at the very end of that, my phone died, so there's a little bit of a cut here. Otherwise, I did that entire podcast uncut and unedited, which is pretty cool, which I thought would have been my goal and probably impossible. But yeah, please, anybody who listens to this podcast that likes it, share it with somebody, give us a comment. Make sure you give us 5 stars. It actually does help. And we love doing this stuff for you, so we're going to keep doing it. But if you want to help the show, just share it with a friend. Give us that 5 star. Hit us a comment on YouTube. And we'll see everybody, guys. See, I've ruined it now. And we'll see everybody next week.